welcome to episode 2 of the FibreBound Podcast. I am Alexandra and I live in Adelaide, Australia with my husband and 2 sons. You can find me on Instagram as FibreBound and on Ravelry as Alipay. Thank you so much for coming back and watching episode 2 if you are a returning viewer, and if you're a new viewer, welcome to this knitting video podcast. In this podcast, I plan to talk to you about my knitting, my current projects, my future plans, my finished objects that I create. I may also talk about crochet or sewing, though I don't have any of that to talk about this week. But I certainly like to try new things and occasionally will get inspired to start a new project, try a new skill, and when the urge takes over, it really takes over. So thank you for joining me today. I am super amazed at the response to my first episode. I have currently 428 subscribers, which blows my mind that many of you have chosen to follow along with my journey. When I've been thinking about starting a podcast, I kept wondering whether I actually had anything new to add. There are so many amazing video podcasts on YouTube already, and some very talented makers that share their experiences, who are much more experienced than I am. And I am very honoured that you've chosen to spend some time with me. And for any likes and comments, it just really warms my heart to think that you've taken the time to do that. I do read every single comment and I appreciate everyone so much as well. I got quite a lot on that first episode, so I do apologise if I didn't get a chance to respond to yours. I hope to go through them and do that at some point. But with work and life, there are some limits in the time available, but thank you so much. Every single comment has been read and I am so appreciative of your time. So let's get on to the knitting. I have 3 finished objects for you today. I have a couple of whips and a little bit of future planning or knitting dreams that I'd like to share with you, and then I might talk about some life stuff at the end as well. So I might start with my very first finished object for 2021. I started this project in April last year, and it was such an enjoyable knit, but for some reason I just kept getting distracted with other projects and other goals and other make-alongs, and you'll see that that's a common theme for me. I like a make-along. But this project was something that I'd seen so many people knit and really wanted one of my own, and really enjoyed the process of knitting it. So I'm not wearing it today because it is 38 degrees Celsius in Adelaide today, and I think that equates to around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is rather hot. The air conditioner's on, but it feels like it's struggling at the moment, and I do apologise if you hear any noise from that. But it is very hot at the moment, so I can't wear it. When it gets cooler, I will try to take some finished object photos of it so that I can show you, and I'll probably post those on Instagram. But for now, here's my first finished object. This is the Felix sweater. Sorry, you can't probably see all of it in the view here. So this is the Felix pullover, sorry. This is a pattern by Amy Christophers, and she has written this pattern in worsted weight yarn, but I actually knit it in a sport weight. It is knit in Vidalana Ascendance in the colourway Broken Stones. I wasn't quite able to meet gauge on this project. It obviously is a slightly thinner yarn than what the pattern was written for. So I did size down in needles, but then sized up in pattern. So I knit these on, I think it was a 5.5 and a 6.5 millimeter needle respectively for the ribbing and the body. And I knit the size 2. with the aim of actually going for a size 1-ish. So I love this detail. That detail there is just really pretty. I hope that's focusing. I'm sorry if it isn't. I did decide today to actually pull out my DSLR. Just figured while I'm in a different part of the house and it's a bit darker here, this might actually be a better quality camera. So I do apologise if the focus isn't quite right. I should have said that at the start. But yes, this was a very fun knit. It was a 1x1 rib at the collar here. Then it was obviously the details for the raglan increases with the lace panels there. Long sleeved. I made it full length sleeves. And I actually added an inch or so to the bottom just because it was a little bit too cropped for me. And I'm really happy with the length that it's turned out at. With the 1x1 rib, I don't generally love 1x1 rib. I don't know about you, but I do find that it can be, okay, is that focusing? A little bit messy for me. So I tried a different technique for this to try to make it tidier. I used the combination knitting where you purl through the back loop. But I actually tried it a little bit differently as well and knit through the back loop to reorientate my stitches. So I might pop a tutorial down below or a link to a tutorial that I used to figure that out, because you have to wrap the yarn anti-clockwise around the needle for that to work and not to get your twisted rib. I love a twisted rib. I actually do like that finish, but I wanted to follow the pattern for this one, so I wanted it to be a 1x1 rib. So I'm really happy with the way that that turned out. There's quite a bit of it on the sleeve there as well. I'm not sure if you can see that. So the sleeve has the detail as well, which is a really lovely sleeve. And I also decided to do my sleeves as per the size 1 decreases, even though I was knitting the size 2. Just because of my gauge difference as well. So I'm really happy with the way that they fit. They're not too tight around my arms. They're really quite lovely. So yes, I am hoping to get some finished object photos of this beautiful piece, but I will be waiting for it to cool down a little bit. So that's finished object number 1 for 2021. It's pretty amazing to have a sweater off the needles first up. Okay, so my second finished object for the month, or for the year, is actually something that I cast on, it was actually my first cast on for second cast on for 2021 as well. So my niece is extremely knit worthy. She's 5 years old and she's always asking me about my knitting. Last year around this time of year, and it's very hot at the moment, it's summertime here in Adelaide. So last year around this time of year, she begged me for a pink scarf. So I decided to crochet her a scarf and got that to her in about a week. So she was very impressed. And this year she came over during the school holidays and she requested a new hat. She requested it specifically a stripy hat. So we had a look at some patterns on Ravelry together. I put in some parameters, or I actually got her to choose the yarn first. I asked her to go through my stash of old acrylic yarn that I bought when I first started knitting and got her to pick out some colours that she liked. She picked out a purple and a lilac. She has my heart, this child. She just seems to love everything I love because they're some of my favourite colours too. And we found a pattern and she decided she was happy with this one when I pointed this one out to her. And it is the Candy Cane Lane hat. This is a pattern by Drops yarn. It is a free pattern on Ravelry and it just has a little bit of colour work. Let's see if I can focus that in a bit. So it has a bit of colour work here, very simple colour work. But I sold her on it when I told her it had love hearts. That made her very happy, which is so adorable. So we're calling it her love heart hat. And I got her to choose the pom-pom on a FaceTime call this week as well, and she chose this one. This pom-pom is, I picked this up on Amazon a couple of years ago, a big bulk pack, and they've actually like a little snap pom. So I don't know if you can see that, but it makes it really easy to wash the hat by pulling the pom-pom off. So the camera just cut me off, so let's try that again. Not quite sure what the go is here, but that's all right, we'll figure it out. So yes, I think I was talking about the yarns. The yarn is from Lincraft. The darker purple is from Lincraft, the double knit yarn, and the lighter lilac is a spotlight yarn called Marvel. They're both 100% acrylic. I figured she's 5, and just to make it easier for care, just can shove this in the washing machine and it will be fine to wash up that way. So that's why I thought let's let her choose some acrylic to make this with. I followed the pattern almost exactly. I did actually alternate these little love heart blips, or the little colourwork blips. So what I did here, oh that's really blown out, is they're supposed to line up on each line. I offset them, so instead of them being all on one line, I've made a little diamond out of them. I just thought that gave a little bit more interest to the pattern. But if you wanted to follow the pattern as it's written, it is very effective in the original format of the line, the colourwork lining up. Because it is my first colourwork project that I've ever shown here, I guess I should show you my floats. So that's my floats. And I mean, it's a very simple colourwork, so there's not much really to see there. But yes, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I should probably try it on actually. And I'm sure she will love it. She was quite impressed when she saw it on FaceTime the other day, so it fits me quite well. Her head is, she's got a lot of hair, so I thought I'd make it a little bit slouchy. And yeah, that's the hat. I don't know if you can see that behind there, but this is Victoria's hat. My final finished object for today is my first pair of socks for the year. So last time I showed you I was knitting the Desert Vista Dye Works monthly knit along socks, and I actually bound these off today, so they're done. Here they are. These are knit in Desert Vista Dye Works Viso base. It's I think a 75/20. Let me check that. Yes, it's a 75/20 base, and this is the colorway Spider Zombody Man, and these are for my son whose birthday is on the 1st of February, so I'm a little bit early, which is amazing. So I knit these, I cast these on the 1st of January and finished them today. Today's Saturday the 23rd of January. I knit the Magic Heel socks by Autumn Acorn for these socks, which has a slightly different heel. I'll just see if I can focus in on that one. So it's not got your traditional heel flap and gusset or afterthought heel. It's just actually got some texture here. And if you look on the other side, it's the same thing. And the aim with these socks, I think I talked about this last time, is that they grow with him. He's 13, he's growing, and the last thing I want is for the socks not to fit him after 6 months. So I thought I'd try this pattern, which doesn't have a dedicated heel space but still has this heel feature. And my hope is that he will be able to wear these for a couple of seasons before his feet grow out of them. I'm not quite sure how they will wear yet. Obviously they haven't been worn, so I can't really comment on this particular heel in terms of the wearability. But I have tried them on because he's at the moment got a very similar foot size to me. And they're really quite lovely to put on. I'd just be interested to see what they're like in shoes, to see whether they slip down or anything like that, or whether they stay quite nice and hugged to your foot. Yes, so it'll be interesting to see how that happens. I might make sure I knit myself a pair coming up in the next few months as well, so I can test that out for myself. But once I give these to him in February, he probably won't wear them till around May realistically, because it's still quite warm up until about that point here. But once he starts wearing them, I will report back on how he's going with these. They were a very fun quick knit. I cast on the 64 stitch size for him because he's growing. He's pretty slim, so I do worry that they might be a little bit loose for him at the moment, but again, I'm hoping they last a little while, so I'm sure that will be fine. I knit, I think, 50 rows of the foot before I started the heel section. It is a paid for pattern, so I won't talk about how the heel's constructed. But if you check out Autumn Acorn, I'll link the pattern down below. You're welcome to obviously have a look at how that works. But then I knit another, I think, 50 approximately rows for the foot before starting the toe, and I did a rounded toe for him. That's my preferred toe to knit on socks. So yes, this is my second finished object. These were knit off, forgot to say, these didn't talk about the needle size for the hat either. These were knit on US ones, 2.25 millimeters. I started on the 9-inch circulars for both socks up until I got to the heel. Quite enjoyed the process of the 9-inch circulars, and then once I got to the heel part, I transferred onto Magic Loop and continued on that way for the rest of the sock. Yeah, Magic Loop is my preferred method of knitting socks, but I do sometimes like to mix it up a little bit, and in particular when I'm going to the cinemas, I love a 9-inch circular. So I did knit on these in the cinemas with the boys. We went to see, what did we go to see? We went to see Wonder Woman 84, I think that's what it's called, at the cinemas a week or so ago. And I knit on these while we were at the movies for a little while until I felt that there might be something wrong with a stitch. And then I actually really quite enjoyed focusing on the movie. So I maybe got a couple of stripes done at the cinemas. But these have been a great lunchtime knitting project. So I'm back at work now, so knitting time can feel a little limiting or limited. So I knit on these on my lunch breaks predominantly over the last 2 weeks. And then if I've been in the car or waiting for appointments, that sort of thing. So yes, knit in about 3 weeks, which I'm pretty happy with, amongst other projects. So I'm really quite happy with how they've turned out. So they're the Magic Heel socks. So those are all my finished objects for today. I might move on to my works in progress. So amazingly, I only have 2 works in progress that I've been working on since completing those 3 projects, which feels really liberating. And I'm pretty close to finishing one of them. So I did talk about these projects in my last episode, and I will just show them to you again, show you what progress I have made. So the first one I'll show you is my Stephen West Slipstravaganza Mystery Knit Along shawl. I am on the I-cord bind off. So that is how much I have bound off so far. Oh, it's all very squishy. I can't wait to block this out to actually be able to see the shape beautifully. But yes, so I still have a long way to go, as you can see. My aim for this is to knit 30 minutes a day on this project until it's done. It's sort of it's a way to keep me progressing without it feeling like a chore, because I find when it gets to a 900 plus stitch project, I lose a bit of steam on that. So I just wanted to find my progress keeper to show you how much actual depth I've knit over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. So there's my progress keeper from the last episode, and I've knit, I think it's about 14, 15 maybe rows in that time. And so I've done 3 stripes of the contrast colours. So I've done the smaller border. So we've got contrast colour 1, which is flushed, contrast colour 2, which is intangible, and contrast colour 3, which is quarantine 15. And now I'm doing the bind off with my main colour, which is biscuit. All the yarns, I spoke in depth about them in the last episode, but they're by Lovebird Lane. She's a local to me dyer and a very talented one at that. So Lovebird Lane yarns, there's her tag. And most of these are her 80/20 Superwash BFL base, except for the Quarantine 15, that is a 75/25 Merino blend, I believe. So this has been a really fun knit. I've really enjoyed knitting along with this knit along. Each section has given a little bit of different interest to the pattern, which has been fun. And now it's just a matter of getting through this super long I-cord bind off. But, you know, that's, I think, 3 days worth of progress, 2 days. 2 days worth of progress. So that was the first day. And then I put a marker here, so I felt like I was progressing. And that was the second day of progress. So, I mean, hopefully I will put more than 30 minutes a day into it if I get on a bit of a roll, but I have been very tired after work this week. It's been a pretty big week, so I did only put the 30 minutes in each day, and so it's still got a long way to go, but that is progressing. My second work in progress is the Drifter Shawl by Tammy Gore. Now last time I was up to, or I had just finished section 5, and I actually haven't made a whole lot of progress on this given that I finished 3 projects in the last 3 weeks. So there's my stitch marker from the last episode, and I'm about halfway through section 6. And I really do enjoy this knit. This is such a fun one when I pick it up. It's got a lot of interest in the pattern as well. It has a lot of slip stitches and striping, and the 2 colours are just playing so beautifully together. It's getting a bit long now, but it's looking absolutely beautiful. I absolutely am going to love this when it's done. I'm actually really enjoying the knitting process as well. So this is a knit along that I am doing with Krista, the knitting dentist. And I talked about that more in the last episode. I'm holding this one in my project bag bike that Krista made for me. She's not selling these at the moment, but hopefully will soon. This is a bag she sent me last year. And the yarns here are by Explorer Knits and Fibres. We have, the main colour is the greeny colour, and that is called Trastavere. I think I say it wrong every time. And it's a beautiful greeny colour. And the contrast colour is Roma. That's a really good colour representation on there actually. I think that is about perfect. It's got a tiny little bit of that green through this colourway, which blends them so beautifully in the one project. So that is the Drifter Shawl by Tammy Gore. I'm knitting that on a 3.75mm needle on my Chow red interchangeable needles actually. I find shawls in fingering weight I really enjoyed my gauge when I knit them on a 3.75. I'm pretty sure it was written for a 4mm, but I sized down for two reasons. One, I really like my gauge in shawls on that needle. Excuse me. And my second reason is that the pattern is actually written for a little bit more yardage than I have. So I have 400 yards per 100 gram skein here, and I think the pattern's written for around 420 yards. So I did have a little bit of a concern that I might run out, and yes, so 3.75mm needle. I think that's a US 5. Yes, US 5, and really enjoying that project. So they're my only active works in progress as of this morning, which is surreal. I never only have 2 projects I'm working on. I do have some languishing whips that I'm not working on, so I'm not going to show you right now, and I really have no desire to work on those right now. But yes, I am looking forward to casting on some new things. Last time I spoke about wanting to cast on a brioche cowl, and I'm looking at the Chromatic cowl for that one, but I'm waiting for one of these 2 shawls to be done because both of my 3.75mm needles are in use right now, and I'm pretty sure I need that size for that project. Perhaps I'll need to check that pattern again. But otherwise, I have decided which socks I'll be casting on next. I won't be casting these on until the 1st of February. So I am participating in the 7th annual Desert Vista Dye Works monthly sock knit along. I think that's what it's called. And the aim of that knit along is that you knit a pair of socks each month. You start on the 1st and you need to bind off by the end of that month, in yarn by Desert Vista Dye Works. And so my next pair of socks for that knit along will be these ones. So this is the colorway Somebody Loves You. It is also on the Viso base 75/25 merino nylon, and I chose this color because February is the month of love. I'm a little bit of a theme person. If I can't decide on something, I'll think of a theme to work towards. So this will be my next cast on. I already have popped it in a project bag by Sandy by the Lakeside. Oops, that's the back of it. And I have got some needles ready in here as well as some progress keepers, and we'll be winding this up on the 1st of February to cast on that day. So my preferred way to cast on socks is to start off with a 9-inch circular. I cast on 56 stitches for my socks, and I join in the round on the 9-inch circulars, and then transfer onto a 32-inch cable because I do find 32-inch cables, especially for the ribbing, or magic loop in particular, are a little bit more enjoyable generally. Having said that, I didn't do that for the last pair of socks, but I have even prepared my progress keepers here just so I'm ready to go for each sock. I just attach them to the zip pull there so that they're ready for me and they don't get tangled up in the bag. So that will be cast on shortly. And my other dream cast on at the moment, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about this one, Locatelli came out with a new pattern this month. It's called the Lightweight Hipster Shawl. It's a beautiful crescent shaped shawl, and it's a one skein project. So I dyed some yarn last year as a bit of a play experiment, and this is the yarn I dyed up. It was a Knitcrate that was sent out last year that had some Kool-Aid in it, and you could dye your own yarn, and I used the Kool-Aid that was included. I actually got an orange sachet in this particular crate, and then had a play around with some food colouring and came up with this colour, which I am a little bit in love with. And initially I thought I'd make some socks with it, and then I thought, no, I want to make something I can wear around my neck, something that I can enjoy and for people to actually see as well. A little bit more than socks, even though I do love sock knitting. No one really sees my socks but my immediate family, because otherwise I have shoes on if I'm wearing socks. So I thought maybe the new lightweight hipster shawl for this one, but I had also been thinking about another Joji pattern for this yarn, and that was the Venezia, I think it's called, shawl that she brought out last year, which is also a one skein project. So I'm still in two minds about which one to cast on, but that is very much calling my name again at the moment, so I think that's quite imminent. I've got this yarn in a project bag that I sewed last year, so I dabble in a little bit of sewing. I don't have a dedicated space for my sewing machine, so I do find it a little bit tricky to find the time to pull it out and set it up, but occasionally I do a little bit of sewing, and I made this bag last year. So I thought, my yarn, my bag, it's a bit of a pairing there. So I'm holding that in there, and still need to decide which one I'll cast on, but hopefully that will be started by the time I podcast next. So the only acquisition that I have for this period since the last time I recorded is Knitcrate yarn. So I subscribe to Knitcrate, and if you haven't heard of them, this is, you may have seen their logo. So a Knitcrate is a monthly subscription box. I subscribe to their membership box, as well as sometimes the sock crate and their Malabrigo quarterly crate. And I finally received my, I think this, I don't remember what month this was, December, November? I think this was a November crate. Doesn't say in the book. But basically you get a little booklet in there. The booklet gives you some patterns you can choose from, both knit and crochet. Let me see here. So they're the patterns. And I sometimes will make things out of this book, but often will actually find another project to make with it. And I've been collecting Knitcrate yarn now for a couple of years and have quite the stash. So yes, there's instructions in this one. The pattern is actually in the book, which is pretty cool. But you can also download a digital version of the book with the code in the booklet. And yeah, I think this was November. The crates always come with a little extra goodie, and this one came with a lanolin lippy by the Simply Life, I think it is pronounced. So that's it there. It's the honey flavour or scent. I'm not sure whether it's a scent or a flavour when it comes to this kind of thing. But yes, came with that. It's just a little, I have tried it this morning, just a little lip moisturiser, I guess, which is lovely. I love these things. I get quite dry lips, so really do enjoy a nice natural lip balm. It's a lovely little extra that they've included in that crate or that box. And the yarn itself, let's get to the pièce de résistance. I'm not French, I shouldn't do that. Let's get to the yarn. So this month we have this beautiful colourway. This is Malabrigo Rios. It's worsted 210 yards per 100 grams. It's a superwash merino wool and it's in the colourway Chia. It's got some beautiful speckles through it. And I actually have 2 skeins. That second skein looks a bit different, doesn't it? Looks a little bit more saturated. That is my Malabrigo crate from Knitcrate. And that is my only acquisition for this week. I just realised I forgot to have any of my coffee. So let's have a sip. Okay, I'm back. My card was full, so it looks like there's going to be quite a lot of cutting in this episode. Ah, dearie me. So another thing that I've been getting very interested in over the last few weeks is keeping a bit of a journal or a diary. I recently purchased some notebooks to keep my information in for this year, so I thought I'd show you those. So I actually ended up getting 2. One is a monthly diary, and I think that is the one with the flowers. So that's just a bit of a diary. It has a month to a view and then a week to a view. And I'm just putting some key dates and things like that in there. Not much really in the monthly one. I'm not great at updating these things, but sometimes it's really nice. Like my last week of leave was quite busy, and so I wrote a lot of notes in there about the things that we did. We did some school shopping. We went out to dinner with some friends, which was lovely. My niece came over, which was a lovely day. And then, you know, just appointments and things like that. If one of my kids has a play date, I pop it in here so I know where he was that day. Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm using this one for. And this one is a bit of a blank slate for me. I was watching Kay, the Crazy Sock Lady, and she started a knitting journal. So I found this one actually before she even posted that and had bought it. And it's just a little notebook that's blank. It just has, I don't know if you can see them there, it might not focus. It just has dots. I'm hoping to make this my making or knitting journal. My aim is to write up each project in here as I finish it and just have a bit of a physical keepsake of the things that I make. I hope to do some sewing this year as well. I've got quite a bit of a stash of fabric, so I'd like to make some more project bags at some point once I have some space to spread out my sewing machine and my craft supplies. So I would like to do that at some point, and I figure this would be nice to record those things in here. Last year I just kept some notes in an old notebook that I didn't really do much with. So this is last year's notebook that I also now use for podcast notes. And what I did last year was keep track of my stash in here, which was quite nice. And yeah, I joined the Crazy Sock Ladies Stash Buster Cowl last year. I love a knit along. Knit alongs keep me very motivated, keep me from casting on different things because I'm focused on trying to meet the deadlines of that knit along. And whilst deadlines can be frustrating in some ways, I do find that they motivate me to keep going. So I just sort of put notes here about sort of how much yarn I had acquired in a month. That was January last year. What I'd cast on, what I'd finished, how much yarn I'd used, and that was quite fun to look back on at the end of the year to assess what I'd done. And I like the idea of having something per project that I'm hoping to start this year rather than just a monthly summary. So while I'm here, I just thought I'd share with you my achievements, my crafting achievements from 2020. In 2020, I completed 34 knitting projects, and I think there was maybe one crochet in there, so 23 plus 1. I made 7 shawls, scarves or cowls. I made 5 sweaters, which included actually 1 dress for my niece, which was basically a sweater's quantity of yarn for me. So there were 5 in total, which blew my mind. I had forgotten that I'd made that many. I made 12 pairs of socks and 2 hats. On top of that, I also made 7 other little things. I made some mitts, some preemie hats for charity that I'm hoping to get a bunch together and send off to a hospital that has a neonatal unit. I made a mug rug and some dishcloths. Now when I count the dishcloths, I count 1 per group that I made. So I made 1 group in, I think it was October, and 1 back in March. So that was some great mindless knitting for me. So I made 6 dishcloths in total, on top of the mitts, the preemie hats, the mug rugs, the little accessories there. So I felt like it was a very good year for knitting. Granted, we didn't go out much, and I don't have a specific aim for how much I knit this year. I pretty much take it as I go, but I am participating in the Desert Vista Dye Works monthly sock club, so I'm aiming to have 12 pairs of socks from that. Other than that, we'll see where the year takes me. So yes, I'm looking forward to recording those projects and the progress, and see what I've accomplished this year. I might keep track of things like what I buy. I've made myself some notes, but yeah, I still haven't quite decided how I want to lay this out. But when I bought this, I also ended up buying some pretty pens to use in there. So right now it's a matter of getting started, and I'm the kind of person who wants it to be perfect. So I haven't started it yet. So we'll see if I can get that started before the next podcast. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the knitting content. I will just have a chat with you now. There are a few things I just thought I'd mention, and if you would like to hang around and listen to me ramble a little, thank you so much. It means the world to me. But if you would like to go, I really do appreciate the time you have spent with me so far, and I will see you in the next one, hopefully. I did forget to actually have hardly any of my coffee. I drank half of it while I was trying to empty the cart. I hope you're having a nice beverage or enjoying yourself with some relaxed time and maybe some knitting while you've been watching this. I just wanted to, I guess, check in with you. My children are heading back to school next week. So on Wednesday, my youngest will start high school, and that is rather daunting for me. He's my youngest, and he's going to be a high school kid. My oldest will be starting year 11 on Thursday, and so life is about to get crazy again with homework routines and after school sports and all of the things that you expect with children. It's been a very relaxed holiday period. Obviously we can't go away too much, so we have been hanging around the house mainly. There have been a few day trips here and there. We've had a few days at the beach. We've been to the cinemas, which was really fun with the kids. And yeah, we've just sort of taken it easy, which has been lovely. They've really enjoyed the break as well. Last year was a pretty tough year for everyone, I think. So they've enjoyed the downtime that we've had over the last few weeks. I've been back at work for 2 weeks now, so I feel like my knitting time is limited. I'm sure I'm not the only one who is trying to fit in some some downtime and craft around a busy schedule, but I do feel like some days just that half an hour of knitting and I'm very tired after that. So I'm pretty impressed by the progress I have been able to make these last few weeks since the last time I recorded. But yeah, some weeks will obviously be slower than others. So an exciting thing, I guess, that has happened this weekend is a friend of ours came to visit us, who is helping us draw up some plans for our new home. So that is in progress now. We are looking to build a house this year, which is a bit exciting, and I guess I'll give you more information about that when it's a little bit more imminent. We're still at the planning stage. We're hoping to get some plans to council soon, so very excited about where that's headed. We feel very crammed into this house. We've been here for 3 years, coming on 4 years now, and we did a big declutter when we moved here. Oh. Excuse me. Not sure what I was saying. Sorry about that. Someone came to the door and my dog is very friendly when he says hello, or very loud when he says hello. Okay. I'm not sure what I was saying. That's right. We've been in this house for about almost 4 years and we decluttered a lot when we moved in, but we've definitely accumulated some things since we have been here. I in particular obviously found knitting and crafts, so feel like I am being overrun by yarn at the moment, so I'm being very conscious not to buy too much. But having said that, the urge is definitely there to keep supporting local makers and local small businesses and very talented people around me. So there will be some acquisitions here and there despite having very limited storage space. Ah dear. Well, I think that's probably all that I have to say today. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do enjoy talking about my crafts and sharing those with you. If you have any feedback at all, please feel free to put it in the comments section. I do really value your opinion and hope that I can provide you with content that is of interest to you as well. Like I said, I think in my first episode, I'm hoping to upload every 2 weeks or so. Depending on the content that I have will sort of determine how regular that is. But I do look forward to catching up with you again, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. You're getting a chance to sit down, relax, and have a coffee or a tea or a wine and enjoy some knitting or some crafting time. Happy knitting and enjoy yourselves.